is Building Humans, sponsored by Al Mahaba Foundation and Darul Kalima Publishing. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
We have arrived at, well, a truly pivotal moment in our journey through Maria Montessori's Education and Peace. We're at episode 15, the penultimate chapter. And I have to say, looking at the source material for today, the entire vibe has just shifted.
It really has, hasn't it?
It feels heavier, but also more luminous.
That's a great word for it. It feels like we've reached the summit of a very high, very cold mountain. The air is thinner here, and the view is different.
Exactly. For 14 episodes, we've been deep in the science. We've dissected the biology, the sociology, this concept of supernature, the science of peace.
The mechanics of it.
But this document, her address to the World Fellowship of Faiths, it doesn't read like a scientific lecture. It reads like a spiritual last will and testament.
That is the perfect way to frame it. And to really feel the weight of this text, you have to visualize the room and the moment in history.
The date is critical.
It is absolutely critical. It's 1939. We are in London.
The edge of the cliff.
Precisely. The drums of World War II aren't just beating, they are deafening. The whole world is holding its breath. And here stands this Italian woman, a physician, a scientist, addressing a fellowship of religious leaders. And she isn't talking about movable alphabets she's not discussing how to teach toddlers to tie their shoes. She is looking into the eyes of a humanity that's about to tear itself apart.
And she's making one last plea.
One final desperate plea for the soul of man.
And she leads with a question that, frankly, it haunts me. It hangs over every headline we see today. In a world on the brink of such calculated destruction, is the human being inherently evil?
Right.
Is war our natural state? Because when you look at 1939, or even today, it is very easy to conclude that we're just sophisticated wolves fighting over a carcass.
It is the easiest, most logical conclusion to draw. If you just look at the surface of history, it looks like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
But this is where Montessori does something incredibly audacious.
Yeah.
She stands there amidst all the fear and the air raid sirens, and she declares that war is an optical illusion.
Okay, that's a heavy claim. Calling war an illusion when bombs are about to fall seems, well, to a skeptic, it could sound incredibly brave or maybe incredibly naive.
It does sound naive, but only if you don't follow her logic. She argues that war, violence, corruption, they're simply the things that make the most noise.
The fire's burning down the palace.
Exactly. They grab our attention because they're destructive and immediate. But she says if you look closer, if you look beneath the conflict, there is a hidden, massive reality of human goodness that actually keeps society alive.
And this is what she calls cosmic charity.
This is cosmic charity.
Let's stop there and unpack that. Because to a modern ear, charity sounds like, writing a check to a nonprofit. It sounds optional.
Right. Something you do when you're feeling generous.
Yeah.
And she doesn't mean charity in that sense of philanthropy at all. She means it in the archaic sense of caritas love in action, a universal binding love. And she grounds this not in sentiment, but in the gritty, dirty reality of the global economy. She uses two specific parables to prove that society is built on altruism, not competition.
The baker and the miner. I found these examples fascinating because they're so mundane. We see them every day, but we never think about them this way. So walk us through the baker. How is a guy making croissants an example of this cosmic charity?
She asks us to imagine the baker working the night shift. While the entire city is asleep, safe in their beds, he's awake.
Right.
He stands before a scorching hot oven all night long. He's working in the dark. Why? To make sure that when you and I wake up, there's fresh bread waiting.
Okay, but the cynic in me and the economist in me says he's doing it for a paycheck.
Of course.
He wants to pay his rent. It's a transaction. He's not thinking about my breakfast. He's thinking about his bills.
Exactly. That's the surface level. That's the illusion. But Montessori asks a simple physiological question. Does he eat all that bread?
No, obviously not. He'd burst.
Right. He cannot consume the fruit of his own labor. He is baking for strangers. He's toiling for people he will likely never meet, people who will never say thank you.
People who don't even know he exists.
And even if his conscious motivation is the wage, the outcome of his action is service to the species. He creates a surplus that sustains life for others. He's feeding the single nation of humanity.
So the wage is just the economic mechanism, but the biological reality is service.
Precisely. The money is just how we keep score. The reality is he is giving his life energy to feed others. But then she takes it deeper. She talks about the miner.
And this imagery is much darker.
Much more intense, yes. This part actually gave me chills reading it. It's like something out of Dante's Inferno.
It is.
She describes the miner descending into the bowels of the earth. I mean, think about what that entails. He leaves the sunlight, the fresh air, his family.
Buries himself alive.
He essentially buries himself alive. Facing constant risk of collapse, explosions, toxic gas, he lives in perpetual danger. And for what? To extract coal.
Coal that warms homes he will never, ever visit.
Yes. Coal that powers trains he might never ride. He is sacrificing his health, his safety, and sometimes his life so that a stranger hundreds of miles away can sit by a warm fire.
And Montessori looks at this and asks, is this the behavior of a wolf?
Is this the behavior of an inherently evil creature?
When you put it that way, they sound less like employees and more like hidden martyrs.
That is exactly the term she implies. This, she says, is the hidden fabric of the single nation. We look at society and we see the jungle of competition, the stock market, the politics, the wars.
That's the optical illusion.
That's the illusion. The reality is that society is held together by the silent, sacrificial labor of millions of people working for one another. If this cosmic charity stopped for even one day,
the whole thing collapses.
society would collapse instantly.
So it reframes the entire economy. We think of it as, I want money, you want goods, let's fight for the best price. She sees it as this web of interdependence that proves we're actually altruistic.
Yes, we are biologically wired to serve the species. The problem isn't that we're wolves. The problem is that we are sleepwalking. We take the bread and the coal for granted.
Which brings us to the application.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just about philosophy, it's about building humans. So if society is built on this hidden martyrdom, how do we get that across to a child?
Right.
Do we just tell them to say thank you more?
It goes so much deeper than manners. Manners are superficial. Montessori wants to change the child's entire psychological relationship with the world. She introduces a concept called gratitude to the unknown.
Gratitude to the unknown. I love that phrase. It sounds almost mystical. How do you practice that?
You have to teach the child to look behind the object. Let's say a child is holding a pencil or eating a slice of toast.
Okay.
Usually the child sees a product. This is my pencil. This is my bread. It's a possession. It just ends with them.
Right. It starts and ends with me.
But the educator, the parent, the teacher needs to narrate the true story, the biography of that object. You tell the story of the unknown people behind it.
You give it a history.
You say, do you know who made this pencil? There was a woodcutter who went into a deep forest. There was a miner who dug out the graphite in the dark. There was a driver who drove a truck through the rain.
You're populating the inanimate object with human souls.
Beautifully put, yes. You are revealing the human effort that is frozen in that object. You're making the invisible visible.
And what's the psychological payoff? What does that do to a 6-year-old's mind?
It creates a profound structural sense of indebtedness. The child grows up understanding that their life is supported by the labor of humanity.
I am not alone. I am being cared for by millions of strangers.
Exactly. And Montessori argues that this makes it psychologically very difficult to wish harm upon a society you feel indebted to. You cannot hate the hand that feeds you.
This connects right back to what we discussed about moral schizophrenia. That gap where we use advanced tech, but we have the morality of caveman.
This is the cure. Moral schizophrenia happens when we use the machine but forget the man. By narrating the history of the object, you reunite the object with the subject. You turn a consumer into a member of the human family.
So we move from the dark minds of the worker through this gratitude for the daily object, and then Montessori shifts gears again. And this is where the testament aspect really comes in. She stops talking about workers and turns her focus back to the child. But she uses a term here that, well, it stopped me in my tracks. She calls the child Messiah.
It is a provocative term, especially in a room full of religious leaders. It grabs you by the throat.
It feels risky. Was she being theological here? I mean, was she trying to start a new religion?
No, and that's really important to clarify. She isn't replacing Jesus or Buddha. She uses Messiah in the sense of a savior, a redeemer of the species.
Okay.
She asks us to look at the adult world, the world of 1939, and frankly, the world of today. Adults are hardened. We're corrupted by that optical illusion of competition and war. She calls adults mutilated men.
Mutilated men. That's a harsh diagnosis.
It is, but look around. She means we are spiritually mutilated. We've lost our wholeness. We're entrenched in our prejudices, our politics, our nationalisms. We're ossified.
But the child.
The child is the only neutral being.
Neutral in what sense? Because kids can be pretty chaotic.
Neutral in the sense of prejudice. The child has no political party, no ideology, no racial bias. A child born in one country can easily love a child from an enemy country.
They haven't been taught to hate yet.
Not yet. Montessori quotes Emerson here, suggesting every child born is a new messiah, a fresh chance for the species to save itself from degeneration. Every birth is nature saying, let's try again.
Here is a human being who hasn't been corrupted yet.
Exactly. It's the spiritual embryo we talked about. And she takes it a step further. She calls the child the teacher of peace. She paints this incredible image. Imagine a peace conference.
Okay.
The politicians are arguing, shouting, drawing borders on maps. And then the doors open and hundreds of children walk in silently.
The room would go quiet. You couldn't keep
You
shouting.
would have to go quiet. The politicians would fall silent because the presence of the child brings pure love, a love that isn't calculated. The child reminds the mutilated men of what they used to be.
And what they're supposed to be protecting. The child is the conscience of humanity.
But then comes the tragedy. And this is the part of the text that really breaks your heart. We have this Messiah, this teacher of peace, living in our homes, and what do?
We oppress him.
We oppress him. We ignore him. We turn him into the forgotten citizen. We try to mold him into our own corrupt image.
We say, you must be like me. You must fit into this broken society.
And in doing that, Montessori says we are destroying the only hope for our regeneration. We are taking the medicine and throwing it in the trash.
So it's the ultimate irony. We look to the UN to save us from war while we're busy crushing the teacher of peace in our own nurseries.
That is the core message. Peace isn't something you sign, it's something you build. And you build it by protecting the spiritual integrity of the child.
Which leads to the conclusion of the chapter, where Montessori does something very personal. The text says she took a vow.
Yes. And you have to remember, she started as a hard scientist, an observer, a data collector. But by the end of her life, she took a vow.
And what was it?
She vowed to stop acting as the child superior, to stop thinking she was the one who had to teach the child how to be human. Instead, she vowed to become a follower of the child.
A follower of the child. That's a complete reversal of the traditional hierarchy. We think the adult leads and the child follows.
And that hierarchy is exactly what leads to the tyranny we've talked about. When the adult leads with force, we get conflict. When the adult follows the child's spiritual needs with humility, we get peace.
Wow.
She realized the child holds the secret to our cosmic task. She decided to follow that lead.
It's just so humbling. It suggests the solution to war isn't only in the hands of generals and prime ministers, but in the hands of parents and educators.
It puts the responsibility squarely on us. If we connect the dots, we have two pillars. We have the cosmic charity of the worker, the baker, and the mimer, showing us we're built for service.
Right.
And we have the spiritual embryo of the child, the Messiah, showing us the potential for pure love. Peace comes when we recognize the former with gratitude and protect the latter with humility.
It's a beautiful synthesis. We're surrounded by love, the unconscious love of the workers and the conscious love of the children. We just need to open our eyes.
That is the science of peace. It's not magic. It's recognizing the biological reality of human connection.
This has been an incredibly moving deep dive. We've gone from the dark minds of the worker to the spiritual height of the child Messiah. It really frames this book not just as a book about schools, but as a book about survival.
Absolutely. It's a manifesto for the survival of the human spirit.
Now, we have one episode left. We have the philosophy, we have the testament. But the question remains, how do we apply this tomorrow morning? When the kids are screaming and the toast is burning and we're late for work, how do we bring the child Messiah and the cosmic baker into the chaos of real life?
That is the ultimate challenge. The gap between theory and breakfast.
Exactly. So in our final episode, number 16, we're going to do the final analysis. We're going to build the practical blueprint for the cosmic baker in our home.
Where the rubber meets the road.
That's it. It's time to turn all this high-level theory into a parenting strategy.
I can't wait. It's time to turn this vision into action.
And I want to encourage every listener to find the child Messiah in their own homes today. Look at them differently. Don't just see a messy kid, see the teacher of peace. And if you want to go deeper into these parables, you really need to read the source. You can get the book Education and Peace from Dar el-Khalima Publishing. It will change how you see the world.
And how you see your children.
Thank you for joining us on this penultimate leg of the journey. Until next time, remember our motto, love for all.
Service for everyone.